Enron once ranked as the seventh largest corporation in the United States, credited with revolutionizing energy trading and running a business so intricate that most outsiders could not follow how it actually worked. In reality, that complexity hid one of the largest scams in American corporate history, built on lies, fraud, and political manipulation. The fallout was staggering. Billions of dollars vanished, thousands of jobs disappeared overnight, dozens of executives faced criminal convictions, one took his own life, and the episode exposed corporate greed on a scale that shook corporate America. This is the story of a company that spent a decade climbing to a value of $60 billion, then collapsed into bankruptcy in less than a month. The rise of Kenneth Lay and the birth of a scheme. Enron began as a conventional energy supply company built around natural gas, then expanded into power trading, broadband, and eventually contracts tied to the weather itself. Wall Street treated it as an unstoppable favorite, with a share price that climbed steadily year after year. The company also cultivated serious political connections, becoming the single largest financial contributor to George W. Bush's campaign. Bush reportedly called Enron founder Kenneth Lay by the nickname Kenny Boy, and it is with Lay that the real story begins. Lay grew up in a poor household, the son of a Baptist preacher, dreaming of a way out of his circumstances. He earned a doctorate, worked as a financial analyst inside the Pentagon, and rose to become a key figure in deregulating the American energy sector, building a close friendship with George H.W. Bush. Lay once he sent Enron's corporate jet to fly the elder Bush and his wife to his son's presidential inauguration, a favor that would not go unreturned. The first real warning sign that something was deeply wrong surfaced during the Valhalla scandal of 1987. Two oil traders had been gambling enormous sums on Enron's behalf through accounts bearing crude, mocking names. When auditors discovered the traders manipulating earnings and gambling beyond their authorized limits, they brought the findings to Lay. Rather than firing either trader, Lay left them in place, apparently unconcerned by the method as long as the money kept flowing in. Both were eventually convicted of fraud, and Lay publicly claimed total surprise, despite evidence he had quietly encouraged it. With one top earner now in prison, Lay needed a new engine for growth and found it in Jeffrey Skilling. As incoming chief executive, Skilling steered the company away from simply supplying gas and toward functioning as something closer to a stock exchange for natural gas. He also introduced mark-to-market accounting, the mechanism that would let the company manufacture billions in fictional profit. Under this approach, Enron could record the entire projected value of a long-term contract as profit on the day it was signed, regardless of whether money had actually changed hands or the deal ever succeeded, with the valuation left almost entirely up to Enron's own judgment. When the SEC approved this method, employees reportedly celebrated, fully aware of how much fictional wealth it would let them generate. Skilling ran the company on a ruthlessly competitive philosophy, implementing an internal ranking system that scored every employee, with the worst-performing 10th fired during each review, regardless of actual output. The system produced the cutthroat culture. Skilling wanted employees working 18-hour days, reflecting his belief that money was the only real human motivator. Skilling was a committed risk-taker outside the office too, regularly leading executives on dangerous off-road dirt biking trips, telling associates he liked employees willing to live with that kind of edge. One executive who fit that description was Lou Pye, nicknamed by Skilling his intercontinental ballistic missile. Running an Enron subsidiary, Pye exited the company in 2001 with $250 million, becoming the second largest individual landowner in Colorado, despite leaving behind a division saddled with roughly $1 billion in losses. Pye walked away from the collapse essentially unscathed, and his name resurfaces later in this story. The scheme accelerates toward collapse. Enron Online launched promising an open, transparent marketplace to replace what the company called an outdated, opaque trading system. Enron's stock tripled within 2 years as dot-com enthusiasm swept up investors eager to put spare cash into a company seemingly incapable of disappointing Wall Street. As long as Enron met or exceeded analyst expectations each quarter, the share price kept rising, and it always cleared that bar. Even as Skilling urged employees to pour more retirement savings into Enron stock, the company's actual profits were heading sharply the other way. Enron had poured billions into a power plant in India, only to discover the local market could not afford the electricity it produced, yet executives kept booking projected future profits on paper and paying themselves bonuses on numbers with little relationship to reality. Analysts whose job was theoretically to catch this kind of manipulation instead fell under Skilling's spell, intimidated by the company's complexity, while the rare analysts who pushed back tended to get cut off from access. Riding the dot-com wave, Enron moved into trading bandwidth, striking a streaming deal with Blockbuster that collapsed once the technology proved unworkable, yet still booked $53 million in projected profit from it. The company eventually began trading weather derivatives outright, essentially betting on future temperature. Strange enough to raise eyebrows, yet not strange enough to keep Enron off a list of America's most innovative companies. Fortune reporter Bethany McLean began asking the question that would eventually unravel everything. How exactly did Enron make its money? Skilling claimed he could not answer because he was not an accountant, instead sending finance executives, including Chief Financial Officer Andy Fastow, to address her question. After 3 hours poring over documents, Fastow reportedly told McLean he did not care what she wrote, as long as it did not make the company look bad. Fastow operated with what colleagues later described as essentially no moral compass, making Enron's mounting debt disappear from the books by shifting it into off-the-books shell entities. He even created his own private investment firm called LJM, specifically to buy struggling Enron assets and keep them off the official balance sheet, convincing nearly 100 bankers to invest. The arrangement netted Fastow roughly $45 million, and the banking world's complicity ran deeper still. Merrill Lynch purchased a set of Nigerian power barges from Enron to help manufacture the appearance of a completed sale at quarter's end. Both Lay and Skilling understood this structure could not hold indefinitely and turned their attention toward California next. Skilling grew visibly more erratic, arriving disheveled and reportedly lashing out at an investor with a crude insult during an earnings call. After merging with Pacific Gas and Electric, Enron gained access to California's electricity grid, and the state began experiencing rolling blackouts despite having nearly double the capacity it needed. Enron traders were deliberately manipulating the market, shipping electricity out of state to inflate demand, then routing it back once prices spiked, even contacting plant operators to arrange brief shutdowns purely to push prices higher. While Californians endured genuine hardship, Enron traders celebrated their bonuses internally, with Lay reportedly remarking his people would always find a way to make money. The crisis ultimately cost California an estimated $30 billion. Federal oversight stayed sidelined, partly because the sitting president was Lay's close friend George W. Bush, whose administration declined to intervene, and partly because the Federal Energy Regulators chairman had been personally recommended by Lay. Public fury over the crisis eventually contributed to the recall of California's governor. The collapse and the reckoning. In 2001, Skilling abruptly resigned without clear explanation, leaving him positioned to later claim the business looked sound when he departed. Lay stepped back into the chief executive role, and just 1 day later, Executive Sharon Watkins sent Lay a detailed letter laying out the fraud she had uncovered. Press coverage of Fastow's dealings followed, and the SEC opened a formal inquiry. As investor anxiety mounted, Lay publicly tried projecting calm, even as Enron's accounting firm was simultaneously shredding enormous quantities of internal document. Within roughly a month, a company that had projected unshakable strength collapsed entirely into bankruptcy. Lay later insisted under oath that he had genuinely believed the company remained financially sound right up until his departure, and maintained he had done nothing contrary to shareholders' interests. Trading in Enron stock froze around $32 a share and reopened near $9, wiping out enormous value for shareholders, even as top executives had already quietly sold off much of their own holdings while publicly urging employees to keep buying. As investigators closed in, trader Cliff Baxter, a frequent companion on Skilling's off-road adventures, who had cashed out roughly $30 million, took his own life shortly after being called to testify. Fastow pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges, cooperated against his former colleagues, and served 6 years of a 10-year sentence alongside $23 million in fines. Enron's accounting firm, one of the oldest in the country, was convicted of obstruction of justice and collapsed once its reputation was destroyed. Roughly 29,000 people lost their jobs, many losing medical coverage along with an average severance of only a few $1,000s. Even as departing executives collected tens of millions in bonuses during the bankruptcy and hundreds of millions more the year before. Lay was convicted on 10 counts of securities fraud and faced a potential 45-year sentence, but died of a heart attack roughly a month before sentencing. Skilling was convicted on 19 counts of securities and wire fraud and sentenced to 24 years, alongside substantial fines, losing both parents and his son while incarcerated before serving 12 years and walking free in 2019. That release was not the end of the story. Within months, Skilling registered as a manager of a newly formed energy venture, reportedly working alongside Lou Pai to rebuild industry connections and secure funding. Though regulators barred Skilling from serving as an officer of any publicly traded company, nothing prevents him from operating freely within the private sector. Enron's own corporate motto was simply, "Ask why." During the company's astonishing rise, remarkably few people actually did, with one of its central architects now attempting to re-enter the energy business. That question feels worth asking all over again. If this breakdown of one of history's biggest corporate frauds was worth your time, hit like on this video, subscribe for more deep dives into business scandals and corporate collapse, and drop a comment with your own take on whether Skilling deserves a second chance.